introduce Paula. Thanks for coming, Paula.
You're welcome.
Uh, so Tracy, for those of you that remember Tracy Kuhn and know her, uh, which is probably at least half of you, Tracy went to Somerville, New Jersey, in front of the courthouse, and it was a midweek, midday protest, and uh, there was a woman there with a bullhorn, and she was just chatting with the crowd, real loud and real precise. And Tracy was super impressed with her, and she seemed to have a lot of experience and a lot of great things to say. Well, ends up she got her card, and all this time later, that's Paula. So Paula, in addition to being a lifelong educator, as I talked to Paula, I understood just how long she's been in activism and how many different causes she has activated around. So I would consider Paula a strong, lifelong activist. That's what I'm going to call you anyway. Okay. There's your intro, Paula. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And Pavleen, I want to tell you that we've been doing a lot of immigration work here at Delaney Hall in Newark, and I can't go to your meeting, but I'm so glad that you're doing that work. Thank you. Um,
Thank you.
so over my many years of teaching and activism, I guess I was brought up being an activist. Our goals have been to protect democracy, but in fighting for very specific goals, whether it's in the environment and immigration, peace and justice. So, learning to fight for democracy is part of, I see it as part of every fight that we're involved in. So in teaching kindergarten and first graders for 44 years in New York City public schools, one year when we were learning about tomatoes and how kids wanted to learn about foods in our school, we learned about insect pests, and we learned about pesticides, and then we found out that pesticides can be very harmful to workers, to gardeners, to all of us. And so we set out. We also found that pesticides are used in New York City parks and playgrounds. And so kids were angry. I did not want to leave them angry. I never like leaving children angry like that. So we made a list of what we could do, whether it was making signs, talking to our family, talking to our friends, writing a play, writing songs, writing poems. And we were very lucky because one of the city councilmen came to our classroom, to our school, and we invited him to our classroom, and he invited us to City Hall. And while at City Hall, he said, "What can I do for you?" And they had written a play. The children had just written a play and performed it for the whole school and for their families at night. And so they looked at him and they said, "Well, ban toxic pesticides, use only nature's pesticides, pass a law." And so he looked at them very seriously and he said, "I promise I'll try." And the next year he did introduce a bill into the New York City Council we started in 2013, 2014, 2015, he introduced the bill. In 2017, we brought 60 children and 60 adults to City Hall and performed a skit as part of our testimony. So we were learning about the process of democracy in getting a simple law passed. And it's not easy. But in 2017, it was passed. In 2021, on Earth Day, it was passed into law unanimously. And now a group of people are working to get it implemented fully by providing training for park workers. Next slide, please. Here's a situation that kind of fell into our lap. A lot of us here in New Jersey live along the rail lines. I live in Teaneck, and all through Bergen County, Newark, all through the state, there are trains that carry very hazardous materials. And in 2013, there was a tragedy in Lamagantic, in Quebec, when a train carrying back in crude oil derailed and exploded like a bomb and killed 47 people. So here, what we did was, wait, these are the same trains that go through our communities. Let's do something. Let's try to get a law passed. And it's been a real education in the process of fighting for democracy, which is something so important to your group. Is like, how do you get a single law passed? And it is really hard. We got our state assemblywoman, who then became a senator, Senator Weinberg, to introduce a bill to deal with improvements, safety measures for trains carrying hazardous materials, like the one that blew up in Lamagantic. And so it's also been a process of like, bring the community in. You can see this was a march that was right on the street right next to the rail line, the CSX River line. And so bringing people in, making people, children, adults, people of all ages, bringing people into the process of fighting and learning how to lobby for the legislation, learning how to go to Trenton and speak at committees. There's just so many ways to get involved. I mean, this is a demonstration, but speaking at committees, having meetings with legislators, it's all part of it. And then getting rid of legislators who don't do anything to support people's needs. So the next slide, please. Another thing, part of working for democracy, is getting involved in bigger struggles, not just in our own community, but beyond our community. And so down in southern Jersey, in Gibbstown, they're trying to set up an export facility for liquefied natural gas, which is even worse than back in crude oil, because it travels when it gets out of the train by accident. It would travel, and it could potentially kill millions of people. It's very dangerous. So we joined people in our community, joined people around the state to stop this Gibbstown export facility. And then through that, we became part of a national effort to stop the transport of liquefied natural gas by train. And we got the Biden administration to stop it, to pause the use of trains for transporting LNG. And of course, now Trump wants it back again. And so there's a whole fight now to bring back, or to get transport of LNG by rail. It's a very important fight. So wherever possible, we encourage people who've been part of the earlier fight to get involved in providing comments for the new rule that Trump administration is trying to make. Next. Another part of working for democracy is involving young people, and and young people working with people of all ages. So this was a fight that we had starting in 2018 to stop a gas power plant in an environmental justice community, low-income people, predominantly Black and brown people. And we wanted to stop this gas plant in North Bergen. And it was a long, hard struggle. We had rallies, we had marches. And I'm saying that some of the different things that we did, because, not everybody wants to be in a march. Not everybody can be in a march, but people can go to their town council and get them to pass a resolution to protest a power plant in the community. They can have a meeting with legislators to get them to take a stand against a power plant. We did something called bird dogging, where we went to wherever we could find Governor Murphy, whether it was some kind of a ribbon cutting or whatever, and we'd go after him, stop this power plant, stop this power plant. So there's just so many. We even had billboards. So we had people raising money for billboards. We had press conferences at each of the billboards, one even along the New Jersey Turnpike. So there's just so many ways. And we're talking about building democracy in your organization, but we're fighting for democracy as we fight for these goals to improve our communities, to protect them from pollution, from impacts of climate change, for example. So next. This is a fight that we've been in for 4 years now. In fact, there was a meeting today where we spoke out. We have been trying to stop a fourth power plant in Newark, in the Ironbound of Newark, which has 3 gas power plants, an incinerator, things that wouldn't be in, for example, where I live in Teaneck. There would never be a power plant. There would never, no one would dream of introducing a power plant. But in environmental justice communities, such as the Ironbound of Newark, that's where they continuously put power plants and incinerators and other polluting facilities. So part of working for democracy and working together with other groups is learning, and it's a process of learning how to work with environmental justice organizers, and not always feel like we have to be in charge. I have to be in charge. I have to lead the group. No, when you're working in an environmental justice community, the people in that community should take the lead, should be the lead, and we should not you know, try to grab that leadership role. It's just part of learning to work together in a coalition for for that community. And of course, pollution expands beyond any community. So just learning to work together. This is another one where there are different roles. For example, people in healthcare. We had 136 healthcare providers and scientists who had a sign-on letter about the impacts of pollution, about pollution in the Ironbound, and why having this fourth power plant would be so horrendous. And so there was a role for scientists. We even had a press conference with the scientists and the healthcare providers. We have petitions. We had about 40 towns that passed resolutions opposing this. We had the whole assembly delegation and senators from that area. We had to meet with them and get them to sign on and oppose this power plant. So there's so many roles that people can take, and it's all part of working, towards, it's building democracy as we work in these coalitions. Next. This is something that happened last summer where it was an example of supporting an international fight around plastics and plastic pollution. And the woman who's in the center there, Diane Wilson, is from Texas, and she's been working for 40 years now to stop Formosa Plastics from dumping their pollution into the bay, polluting the fish, the shrimp, and so on. And she and others from Texas and Louisiana came to New Jersey last summer, and I was asked by someone would you participate in this? So they wanted to get the world to know about this company and that it's a serial polluter. The reason you and I never heard of this company is because they don't sell to the public. They sell to other companies. And we wanted the world to know about this horrible polluter that just violates every Clean Air and Water Act. In fact, Diane Wilson won a $50 million lawsuit against this company, and they still continue to dump. So here's a case where we did civil disobedience, which is one of the tools that we have in our democracy. And we said, and we had a great pro bono lawyer, we said we had to do this. We had to block the entrances of Formosa Plastics USA headquarters because the damage they were doing to the environment and to people's health is much more significant than the bad thing we did blocking the entrance to their building, breaking the law. And it was so exciting. We were convicted, but we appealed it to the state superior court, and we won the right to have a trial using what's called the necessity justification defense, which is a very important tool in our democracy. And it's the first time it's ever been used in New Jersey, though. Very exciting. In other words, the need to protect the environment and health was much more important than our act of civil disobedience. We went to trial several weeks ago, and we got there, and at the very beginning of the trial, the prosecutor stands up. He said, "We're dismissing the case. We're tearing up you're expunging your records, no charges." And it was a very important fight in the fight for clean air, clean water, and for democracy. So, I keep referring to very specific fights, whether it's a power plant or pesticide or something, because for me, and for many of us, there, fighting for democracy has very specific real world goals. Like, so you talked before about fighting around the immigration issue. And so we're fighting for democracy and for due process. That's such an important reason why legal people are involved in this, and the community people from the community are involved in the immigration fight, because it is absolutely essential that we fight for the right to due process for every single person. Next.
I think that's it.
That's it. That is it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a question for you though, Paula, before
Hey,
before you go or anybody else jumps in. So you just talked about a lot of different causes that and I know you've been working for decades. Can you tell me a little bit, share a little of your wisdom around why it's so important, but even more than that, because that's half obvious, but like what about your challenges, and how have you gotten around your challenges, and how have you remained so dedicated, and like, tell me why you care so much, and why you're so active.
well, good question. My parents always brought us up to not don't let anything get you down. Keep your chin up. Never give up. So that was kind of the the motto. And they always told us, we want you to be involved in making this a better world. So um, it is hard and it's very discouraging. For example, right now, we know how hard it is to get a new law or a new regulation. It's so damn hard to do. And when we see the Trump administration just shredding regulations, shredding laws, shredding the role of Congress and so on, it's very, very upsetting. But the things that make me give me what do you call it? The courage to continue and to continue is I meet such wonderful people. Like when we've been at Delaney Hall, providing resources, a list of resources to visiting families whose loved ones are detained. And we give them food and we bring clothes so that they can get in and not be rejected because of the dress code. When we're doing that together, when the guy who I gave him my sneakers so he could get in, because you're not allowed to wear sandals to visit your own loved one, when we all hugged, that gives me strength that he got the right to the ability to go in and see his son at this evil detention hall in Newark. It gives me strength when we have a victory like we had in court with Formosa 4, and you can read about that case at formosa4.org. That gives me, those kind of victories give me so much hope. When we have a good turnout at a demonstration, at a meeting, that gives me hope. And I get we have a singing group here in New Jersey called Solidarity Singers. You may have, if you live in this region, you may have seen us, but we're invited to sing all over the place in New Jersey at different kinds of demonstrations. And we change the words to commonly known gospel songs or folk songs. And we've changed the words so that we can, be singing about the specific issue, and bringing music into the fight is very important. The fight for democracy, for environmental justice, for peace, for decent immigration laws. So those are some of the things that give me hope. I see some of my students, because I started teaching way back in the early 1970s, and some of my students are involved in that gives me such joy. In fact, the guy standing next to me in the picture that you're looking at, I didn't know him, but it was a coincidence, but we were standing there together. He said, "Didn't you teach at PS 290?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, I always loved what your class was doing. I'm sorry I wasn't in your class, but I'm so excited. It gives me joy to get students involved in any way they can, whether it's in their building and fighting, for better conditions in their building or their community. Um, one of my students is working on improving transportation systems, and he keeps, we're still in touch. We're always in touch, about trying to make transportation better for people with disabilities, for all people, so yeah. Those victories, those give me.
Well,
And
you're pretty inspirational. That you care a lot. You spend a lot of years, and so for me, I mean, I've always been a little bit of an activist, but now I have a major role in my life towards activism and fighting the changes that and all the threats to our democracy. So yeah, it's a struggle, and it takes a lot of dedication. So I honor you for that. Does anybody have a quick question before we move on for Paula? Do you want to share one last parting moment of wisdom for us as a new grassroots organization?
I actually have one thing. I have a
Sure.
question. How do you, since we're grassroots as well, what is your advice as far as bringing people to the fold? What is your advice with outreach, besides, the standard, social media and that sort of thing? Is there something that has worked in your experience better than other things?
Well, I'm a very active member in Food and Water Watch, and we have a team in North Jersey that meets regularly. And so we plan events. We discuss what we want to do. We plan events. Um, we send out we send out a mailing to a larger group. I send out a mailing to my contacts in my community. We all do that. And I think that, we have events like where we may table at an Earth Day um, event. I think the main thing that gets people involved is that we have actions. We have events, we have actions. At an event recently around the rail safety, we ended the meeting with a potluck dinner, so that there was a socializing part of it in addition to fighting, for legislation. So,
Make it fun.
make it fun. And, I mean, I've made so many friends just being at Delaney Hall Detention Center doing that work. I make so many friends, we have, you know, joyous relationships and supportive relationships when we're demonstrating together, like around, whether it's a power plant or a polluting company. Um, so I think having goals, specific goals that we want, because fighting for democracy is part of winning those goals.
Right.
I never saw myself as like just fighting for democracy. I know we're in a horrible situation right now. I mean, it's fascism, descending on us, and we're fighting for democracy, but I don't see it as a theoretical issue. I see it as we can fight for democracy by fighting for clean air, clean water, by fighting for due process for immigrants, fighting for affordable housing, fighting for, very specific um, programs, whether it's in education, even
Yeah.
even with what the Trump administration is doing. I I went to the No Kings demonstration, and I think that's that, you know, they were very important. But I also want to fight for very specific things, like don't you dare cut our Medicaid. Don't you dare cut money for schools. So I'm looking to see demonstrations that are focused on very specific issues rather than just save our democracy. I think both are important.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
And, you know, I welcome anybody to, you know, stay in the organization, renew democracy. But also, if you're interested in Food and Water Watch, you know, doing environmental work, you know, just let me know. Josh has my email, or I could put it in the chat if you'd like.
I just want to say thank you for your activism over all the years, and it's really important, especially at the local level. So thank you for your efforts over all those years, and especially with our children.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. Very